Art's not just about colors and shapes, it's about pouring your soul onto a blank canvas. I often say to my students. My name's Judy, and I built my life around this belief. Running a watercolor painting school wasn't just a job for me, it was my calling, a place where I could share my love and passion for art with kids who saw the world in a kaleidoscope of colors. My journey wasn't a solo trip. Beside me was Ethan, my husband of 10 years. Despite the love that bound us, life threw us a curveball we never saw coming. One evening, after a long day of classes, Ethan and I sat down for our ritual of sharing our day over a cup of tea. The conversation shifted, as it often did, to the topic that lingered like a shadow over our happiness: no kids. Any news from the doctor? Ethan asked, his voice a mix of hope and dread. I hesitated, the lie I had prepared sitting heavily on my tongue. Yeah, everything's fine. We just need to keep trying, I said, forcing a smile. The truth was far more complicated, but I couldn't bear to crush his hope with the reality of his infertility. So, I chose silence over truth, a decision that weighed on me more with each passing day. After shelving the dream of having my own kids, I poured everything into those classes, drawing and painting with kids who had more energy than a pack of puppies. They soaked up love like little sponges, and in return, filled a gap in my heart I didn't know how to fill myself. Meanwhile, home life with Ethan started to feel like living with a ghost. He drifted further away, lost in a fog I couldn't penetrate. First, he just seemed out of it, then the booze got a grip on him. Before I knew it, he was out of a job, and we were out of sync. But I wasn't about to bail. No way. I stood by him, thick and thin, through counseling sessions that felt more like tug-of-war than therapy. Ethan, this isn't you, I'd say, trying to reach him, to pull him back from wherever he was slipping away to. You're stronger than this. We can beat this together. But it was like talking to a wall. And when he finally decided to switch careers, I didn't think twice about footing the bill. It's a fresh start, babe. I believe in you, I encouraged, clinging to a hope that felt more fragile with each passing day. The school became my refuge, a place where I could lose myself in the laughter and chaos of kids painting their dreams. Mia, my right-hand woman at the school, kept the ship sailing smoothly, or as smoothly as one could with a crew of pint-sized Picassos. Hey, Judy, you need to see this, Mia called out one afternoon, her voice cutting through the din of the classroom. I walked over, expecting another paint spill or a marker masterpiece on the wall. Instead, she was grinning, holding up a drawing one of the kids had done. Look, it's you, superhero style. Cape and all. I couldn't help but laugh, the image of me as a superhero, cape flying, wielding a paintbrush like a sword, brightening my day. Guess I need to add saving the world, one painting at a time, to my resume, I joked. Mia's laughter joined mine, a moment of lightness in the midst of my jumbled life. But as the laughter faded, the weight of reality settled back on my shoulders. Ethan's struggles at home were a stark contrast to the joy and simplicity I found at the school. One evening, after a particularly long day, I found Ethan on the couch, a bottle in hand, staring blankly at the TV. The sight was becoming all too familiar, and my patience was wearing thin. Ethan, we talked about this. Drinking isn't going to help anything, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. He just shrugged, a gesture that spoke volumes of his resignation. What does it matter, Judy? It's not like I'm good for much these days. The hurt in his voice cut me deep, but I was running out of ways to pull him back. You're good for more than you know. But you've got to want to see that for yourself. Our conversations were a broken record, my words never quite reaching him. And as much as I wanted to save him, to save us, I was only one person. I couldn't carry us both, not when he wasn't willing to stand up. The gap between Ethan and me grew wider, a chasm filled with unspoken words and missed connections. And as I threw myself into my work, into the school that demanded so much of me but gave back tenfold, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing Ethan, piece by piece. As my home life started to feel more like a silent movie, the kind where you can see the mouths moving but can't hear the words, Mia, my friend and the rock star administrator of my art school, became my soundboard. She wasn't just good with the books, she had a way of making even the gloomiest days seem like a Jackson Pollock painting, messy but somehow right. Mia had this habit of popping over to my place after work, under the guise of discussing school stuff, but we both knew it was more about unwinding with a glass of wine and letting our real thoughts fly. One of these evenings, she came bouncing in with a sparkle in her eyes that wasn't just from the reflection of her ridiculously oversized earrings. "Judy, you won't believe it," she gushed, plopping down on my couch with the grace of a cat landing on a soft pillow. "What's up?" I asked, handing her a glass of wine and bracing myself for one of her tales. Mia's love life was more vibrant and dramatic than any telenovela, and honestly, a welcome distraction from my own static one. "I met someone," she beamed, the words practically dancing out of her mouth. I couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. "Oh yeah? Do tell." Mia launched into a story about this new guy, how they met in the most cliché rom-com way possible, bumping into each other at a coffee shop, spilling drinks, and exchanging numbers along with apologies. But it was when she started talking about the gifts and the planned lavish getaway that my eyebrows went up. "He's taking me to this fancy resort next month. And look at this," she flaunted a piece of jewelry that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "Damn, Mia. That's something," I managed, my voice a mix of genuine happiness for her and a pinch of concern. "He sounds generous." Mia laughed, a sound full of bubbles and light. "Generous and gorgeous. Girl, I hit the jackpot." I raised my glass to her. "To hitting the jackpot then. May it bring you all the happiness." But as the night wore on, and Mia's stories of grand gestures and pricey presents piled up, a nagging thought crept into my mind. It wasn't jealousy, no, it was worry. Mia was my friend, my confidant, and here she was, getting swept up in a whirlwind that sounded more like a hurricane in the making. "So, this guy, he's for real, right? I mean, all this bling and trips, it's a lot," I ventured, hoping my question didn't sound as blunt as it felt. Mia's smile didn't waver, but her eyes flicked away for just a split second. "Yeah, of course, he's real. And he's amazing, Judy. Finally, someone who knows how to treat me right." I nodded, the unease settling like sediment at the bottom of my wine glass. "Just, be careful. You're my friend, and I just want you to be happy and safe." Mia reached over, squeezing my hand. "I know, babe. And I appreciate it. But don't worry, I've got this. I'm not some damsel in distress. Lately, life's been feeling like a puzzle where the pieces don't quite fit. Ethan's been more ghost than husband, disappearing for hours, vague about where he's been or who he's been with. And then there's Mia, draped in new jewels every week, spinning tales of her mystery man's latest grand gestures. One evening, after closing up the school, Mia and I found ourselves lingering by the door, neither of us in a hurry to head home to our respective complications. "Judy, you ever get the feeling like you're missing something big? Like, there's a whole part of the picture you just can't see?" Mia asked, her usual sparkle dimmed a bit in the fading light. I chuckled, leaning against the doorframe. "Every day. Especially lately. Ethan's been acting all kinds of strange. And then there's you, with your secret admirer who's apparently allergic to public appearances." Mia rolled her eyes, but the smile she shot me was half-hearted. "He's just private, But yeah, I get what you mean. Secrets everywhere." The air between us was thick with unsaid words. It felt like we were both skirting around the edges of a truth neither of us wanted to acknowledge. "Speaking of secrets," I ventured, "you ever gonna introduce us to Mr. Wonderful? I'm starting to think you made him up." Mia's laugh was a little too quick, a little too sharp. "Oh, come on, Judy. Why would I make something like that up? He's real, and he's amazing. Just complicated." "Complicated how?" I pressed, curiosity getting the better of me. She hesitated, then sighed, a sound heavy with things left unsaid. "It's just his situation. It's not exactly straightforward. But we're happy, and that's what matters." I nodded, though her words did little to ease the knot of concern tightening in my stomach. Just be careful, Mia. I don't like the sound of complicated. We locked up and headed our separate ways, the conversation lingering in my mind like a stubborn fog. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how much I didn't know about what was going on with Mia, or with Ethan, for that matter. Amidst the whirlwind of doubts and half-truths, one day Mia dropped a bombshell that made my already tangled world stop spinning for a moment. We were in the back room of the school, surrounded by paints and brushes, a scene of vibrant chaos that suddenly felt too constricting. Judy, I've got news. Mia started, an unusual hesitance in her voice that immediately put me on edge. I'm pregnant. For a moment, all I could do was stare at her, the news sinking in. Pregnant? Mia, that's huge. Congratulations. I managed, the words feeling inadequate for the magnitude of her revelation. She smiled, a mix of joy and something else I couldn't quite place. Thanks, Judy. It's a bit of a shock, but a happy one. We're excited. The word were hung in the air, heavy with implications. So, I ventured cautiously, does this mean there's a wedding on the horizon? Mia's smile faltered, and she looked away, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. Well, about that. He's still married. Needs to sort out a divorce first. The room seemed to grow colder, the air thicker. Married? I echoed, my mind racing. Mia, you're dating a married man? Her defensiveness flared up instantly. It's not like that, Judy. We love each other. He's going to leave her, it's just complicated. Complicated. There was that word again, a convenient cover for a multitude of sins. Mia, how can you think this is okay? You're messing with someone's family. That's not right. The words came out harsher than I intended, but the situation was a slap to my sense of right and wrong. Mia's face hardened, her usual openness shuddering closed. I thought you of all people would understand. It's not like I planned this. Love doesn't follow rules. Her justification stung, a reminder of the moral mazes we find ourselves in. Understanding doesn't mean agreeing, Mia. This is someone's family. Think about what you're doing. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I didn't come here for a lecture, Judy. You're my friend, you're supposed to support me. The conversation ended there, Mia storming out with a mix of anger and hurt swirling in her wake. I was left standing amidst the clutter of our shared space, feeling the distance between us stretch wider than ever. The day was supposed to be straightforward, pack, head to the airport, and catch the flight to oversee the new branch opening. But life, as I've come to learn, rarely follows the script. I was halfway to the airport when my phone buzzed with an alert. A storm warning. Great. Within minutes, another alert followed, the kind that sinks your stomach. Flight cancelled. Fantastic, I muttered, pulling over to regroup. The thought of going back home wasn't appealing, not with the tension between Ethan and me reaching new highs. But what choice did I have? Turning the car around, I decided to surprise Ethan. Maybe an unexpected afternoon together could mend some fences, or at least offer a distraction from the storm brewing outside and in our lives. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed Mia's car parked out front. Odd. She knew I was supposed to be gone. Maybe she's here for Ethan, I thought, a pang of irritation at the intrusion. I didn't bother to announce my return, curiosity pushing me to find out what was so important that Mia needed to see Ethan in my absence. The house was quiet, too quiet, as I made my way inside. The scene I stumbled upon in the living room stopped me cold. Ethan and Mia, lost in an embrace that was anything but platonic. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs, a mix of betrayal and disbelief washing over me. Ethan? My voice sounded foreign to my ears, sharp with a betrayal I never saw coming. They sprang apart, guilt and panic written all over their faces. Ethan's mouth opened and closed, no words coming out, while Mia couldn't even meet my gaze. Judy, this isn't what it looks like, Ethan finally managed, the lamest of excuses falling flat between us. I laughed, a sound bitter and hollow. Really? Because it looks pretty damn clear to me. What's going on, Ethan? Mia finally found her voice, a shaky, "Judy, I'm so sorry." That did nothing to soothe the sting. Sorry? For what, Mia? For betraying me? For lying? Or for something else I'm about to find out? The questions poured out, each one laced with a pain I hadn't expected to feel. Ethan tried to approach me, hands outstretched as if to bridge the gap with a touch. Judy, please, let me explain. I stepped back, out of his reach. Save it, Ethan. I've heard enough lies to last a lifetime. Turning to leave, I couldn't resist one last question, and need to understand the depth of their deceit. How long? Their silence was answer enough. The drive to the lawyer's office was a blur, my thoughts a tornado of anger, hurt, and disbelief. How could I have been so blind? How could the two people I trusted most stab me in the back? Sitting across from the lawyer, the words spilled out, my decision final. I want a divorce, and I want it as clean and quick as possible. The lawyer nodded, his expression one of professional sympathy. We'll take care of everything, Mrs. Thompson. You won't have to deal with him directly anymore. Good, I replied, feeling a semblance of control for the first time in what felt like forever. And one more thing. Make sure he gets nothing. I've supported him enough. The ride home was a mix of tears and determination. I was done crying over a man who had so little regard for our vows, our history. It was time to rebuild, to focus on me and the things that truly mattered. The day after my world turned upside down, I decided it was time to clear the air, once and for all. I called Ethan and Mia to the living room, my resolve steel. There was no room for lies, no space for excuses. Ethan, we're gonna lay it all out now. No more hiding, no more games, I started, my voice steady, but cold, echoing off the walls of the home we once shared happily. Ethan couldn't meet my eyes, his guilt a tangible presence in the room. Mia, on the other hand, looked defiant, ready for a confrontation. You, I pointed at Ethan, betrayed our marriage. You've been drowning in booze instead of facing our problems, too lazy to keep a job, let alone work on us. Ethan opened his mouth, maybe to defend himself, but no words came out. He just sat there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Then I turned to Mia, my fury unabated. And you, I brought you into my life, gave you a job, trusted you. And this is how you repay me? Mia snapped, her facade cracking. You're just jealous, Judy. Jealous because I found happiness and you couldn't stand it. Her words were like venom, but they didn't hurt me. They just showed me how deluded she really was. That's enough, I said, cutting through her tirade. I've filed for divorce, Ethan. And you won't get a dime from me, thanks to your little adventure here. That's when Ethan looked up, desperation in his eyes. Judy, you can't do that. I'll fight for everything. I have a child on the way with Mia. His words were meant to wound, but I had the trump card. I laughed, a sound so sharp it silenced the room. Really, Ethan? A child? I walked over to my office, pulled out the medical reports, and slammed them on the coffee table. You might want to read this. You're infertile, Ethan. That child isn't yours. The color drained from Ethan's face as he scanned the document. Mia's eyes darted between the paper and Ethan, her confidence crumbling. What? That's impossible. You're lying. Ethan's voice was a mix of denial and fear. I wish I was, for your sake. But there it is. Mia, care to explain? I asked, though I didn't expect a truthful answer. The room erupted into chaos. Accusations flew, voices raised in a cacophony of betrayal and shattered illusions. Ethan and Mia turned on each other, their so-called love crumbling under the weight of lies and deception. I watched for a moment, the sad spectacle of their undoing, feeling a mix of sorrow and liberation. Then, without another word, I left them to their mess, stepping out of the house that no longer felt like home. After the storm that was my personal life started to settle, I turned my attention to another mess, our finances. It was time to clean house, starting with the joint account Ethan and I shared. Ignoring it had been a mistake, one I wasn't about to repeat. Digging through the statements, the betrayal took on a new form: numbers. Thousands spent on jewelry, fancy dinners, and hotels. All for his little escapades with Mia. I muttered to myself, anger simmering as I tallied the figures. The deceit didn't stop at my failed marriage. The financial records of the school revealed a similar pattern of betrayal. Mia, who I'd trusted with the day-to-day, had been skimming off the top. Payments from students that never made it to our account, but instead lined her pockets. Armed with the evidence, I met with my lawyer again. I want to press charges, I told him, sliding the bank statements and school records across his desk. Both of them, for theft. The meeting with the police was brief. I filed my report, recounting the thefts, with a detached precision. The officer taking my statement looked up, surprised. "You're handling this pretty well." "I'm past anger," I said, the words tasting bitter. "Now, I just want justice." The fallout was swift. Ethan's face when he was served with the lawsuit was a picture of shock, a look I savored. "Judy, we can sort this out," he pleaded over the phone, desperation clear in his voice. "Sort it out? With the police, you mean?" I shot back, my patience for his lies long exhausted. "Enjoy explaining your spending habits to them." Mia's reaction was equally satisfying. She came to my office, tears in her eyes, begging for forgiveness. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Judy. Please, you don't have to do this. Save it, Mia. You made your choice. Now, you get to live with it," I told her, the finality in my voice broking no argument. The legal battles were draining, but with each court date, I felt a piece of my old self return. The woman who wouldn't be taken advantage of, who stood up for herself. When the dust settled, Ethan and Mia were ordered to pay restitution. Every penny they'd stolen, every lie they'd told, it all came due. And as for me? I sold the house, cut my ties with the past, and started anew. After the whirlwind that tore through my life, I packed up my dreams and my brushes and moved to a new city. It was a fresh canvas, a place where the shadows of betrayal couldn't reach me. I poured myself into rebuilding my school, focusing on the swirls of paint and the smiles of my students to mend the fractures in my heart. Word got around, as it always does, about Ethan and Mia. Their fairy tale had crumbled, leaving behind nothing but dust and regrets. Ethan, now jobless and drowning in debts, had moved back with his parents. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity. He was just a character in a story I no longer read. As for Mia, she had her baby, a bundle of joy in a world that seemed to have turned its back on her. Last I heard, she was juggling odd jobs, trying to make ends meet. Once upon a time, I might have reached out, offered support, but that bridge was burned, the ashes scattered. In this new chapter of my life, I found solace in my work and the new faces around me. The city offered anonymity, a chance to redefine myself without the whispers of the past nipping at my heels. One evening, at a local art event, a conversation sparked up with a fellow artist, someone who knew the color of passion and the shadows of loss just as well as I did. "You've got a unique style," he said, eyeing one of my pieces. "There's a story behind these colors, isn't there?" I smiled, a genuine curve of the lips that had become too rare. Every artist has their tales. Some brighter, some darker. What's yours? We talked for hours, our words painting pictures of our pasts and hopes for the future. It was refreshing, talking to someone who understood the language of loss and rebirth. Moving to a new city hadn't just offered me a change of scenery. It had given me a new perspective, a chance to heal and to grow. I wasn't the same woman who had left that old life behind. I was stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever came my way with open arms and an open heart.